Oh, before we start, I have to unwrap something really quick. I have to unwrap two things, actually.
You know, technically that's better podcast content than a lot of our visual jokes.
Okay, I'm ready.
Well, it's Wednesday night, and we are here at Rachel's apartment, which must mean it's Starformers night. Welcome to Rebels and Robots, episode 37. The way I have it written down, I was about to say episode Cameron.
Oops, all Cameron.
We haven't done that quite yet. So episode 37, I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
This is our weekly chat about Star Wars and...
Transformers.
That is correct. Today we are talking about Ahsoka, episode 7, or chapter 7. I'm not quite sure. I can never remember how they have been
I
listed.
think it's chapter. Or is it part?
It might be part. Nonetheless, wow, we're getting onto nonetheless really early on.
Who's we?
I use that word so much because
who's
we're constantly going off topic. This is episode 7 of 8 for Ahsoka. So we're getting close to the end here. And Athena is chomping on some plastic. Wow, this is a classic podcast
intro.
episode of Rebels and Robots already. We got me messing up words. We got you making noise. We got Athena eating plastic. It's all here,
Look
folks.
How
this
upset
is.
she is. Look at how upset she is.
Her ears are already pinned back.
Airplane
We're in for a good episode. She was talking right before we started recording, so we'll see how quiet she stays today. So we'll get to talking about Ahsoka here in a minute, but of course we always start with last week's news, recent thoughts, any comments on last week's podcast, anything about that, any new thoughts on last week's episode of Ahsoka.
So not related to Ahsoka, but related to this podcast. I have something from my mom.
Oh.
She has something for us.
Oh.
Things. We each get one, and I have yours and I have mine, and she handed this to me when they were up this weekend, and she goes, for you and my podcast friend.
Oh.
So it's okay if you don't understand what this is immediately. I almost picked out the wrong one. Oops.
I'm very excited. I love surprises and gifts. This is a laptop bag?
It's for your books.
Oh, it's a book.
It is a book cover,
thing.
and so what it does is that I think there's actually an official formal term, but it's like a book, quote unquote,
like a book sleeve.
Yes, I think that's the actual term. So you can put your books in it, and it protect. Okay, maybe not a book that big, but you zip it and it protects it.
A book this big. This is very cool. So the one that I'm currently holding is a very cool illustration. It is Luke with his hand on R2. This is something you briefly see in episode 7, more in episode 8. It's from the flashback of Luke seeing his Jedi temple destroyed by Kylo. This is a very specific scene, but a very cool illustration. I love this. This is very cool. Thank you, Rachel's mom. This is a very librarian gift.
It is a very librarian gift. This is mine.
Yours is Transformers. This is very nice. Wow.
It's a little bit smaller, but that's okay. So we've got Soundwave versus Blaster and all their cassettes.
I didn't know that there was an Autobot.
Yeah, we've seen him a couple times. He doesn't really do a whole lot. Okay, so
that's a fun. These are very like niche, but like great for fans.
Exactly. So
these are super cool.
Soundwave, Rat Bat. That's his name.
Rat Bat. Rat Bat. That makes more sense.
Oh gosh, I just realized it. The bird. Soundwave's bird.
Laserbeak?
Laserbeak, yeah. And
wow, I knew Transformers. Wow.
Put me to shame. And Ravage, and then we have Blaster. Oh, I know their names in my heart of hearts. But basically, these are like the polar opposites of Rumble and Frenzy. Steeljaw, which is the other cat. And then a Rhino, whose name
Disney,
I don't
please don't
remember.
sue us for copyright.
Please don't sue us. But so, yeah, those are from my mom. She's very excited about them. And I'm excited about them too. So now you can go travel places and bring your books, and they won't get like banged up in your luggage.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
that is 100% why. I think everyone who listens to this podcast probably knows this pretty well, but just in case they don't,
we're big old nerds.
My Bible is very important to me, and
yes.
I've had the same one.
I didn't know where you were going
I've had
with
the
that.
same one since high school, and its like cover is detached. Like it's two separate things: the leather cover and the actual Bible.
A Bible well loved.
And it's because it's traveled with me quite a bit. So
Now you can keep it in
I can
2
keep
parts
it-
instead of 3.
keep it safe. And I plan on getting a new Bible sometime soon, and this can protect it when I travel.
Yes, protect.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Rachel's mom. You're gunning for #1 fan. You better watch out, Megan.
You know who else has a book sleeve? Lime.
Do you know where she got these? Is this like an Etsy thing? From a book fair?
Book bow.
Book bow.
As in BOOKBEAU. As in like a bow. Like a boyfriend. It's the brand.
Nice. And the artist's name is on here. I'm going to quick Google search. Also, FYI, Ahsoka is listed as parts. You were right. It's part 7 to this week.
Because they're both actually the same artist. Is this Doyle? I think that's Doyle. Tim Doyle. Thank you, Tim Doyle. I hope you got some commission out of this. Or not like commission, but like royalties.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at this creepy cat bus he's done.
Ooh.
I know that's outside the parameters of this podcast, but it is within the parameters of our friendship. Man, this is good. He's good. I like it. Is this a This is not a Oh, it's from Fortnite. I thought it was a Transformer. It's a big pink bear robot.
Fortnite Battle Pass.
Oh, this guy's... Yeah, highly recommend. Just if you're a fan of fan art, then type in Tim Doyle... artist is what I Google searched, and he's got a really cool style.
Yeah,
this is fun.
Sick stuff.
I was trying to see if there's any. Oh, here's a really cool Megatron one here.
Oh yeah, that one's nice.
I get on you for doing visual stuff. I need to stop this.
We're gonna go through this entire man's portfolio right
Just saying,
now tonight.
that looks cool.
We're not actually
That
gonna talk
looks
about
cool.
Ahsoka Part 7. We're talking about Tim Doyle's artwork.
What other news you got for us this week?
I saw this theory. That scares me.
Okay.
This theory that says it was just like hey, what if this theory that all of the Ahsoka cast will die aside from Hera and Jason, which would explain why there's no mention of them in the sequels. And my heart can't handle that.
That's what we all assumed about Grogu, and he's still kicking up until at least just now. So you never know. But now they have an excuse to be gone because there's another galaxy. You've got, you've always got the world between worlds with all of its tomfoolery. You just never know where someone might be now. There's lots of, and you just have, presumably, they give good excuses to why characters like, you don't see. I mean, you don't see like Hera is around, but she's just fighting with the rebel forces. But like.
We do see the ghost in Rise of Skywalker. It's in some shots.
And at the very end of Rogue One as well.
Yeah, we actually hear them say General Sindel, and we see Chopper.
But like they explained why Sabine wasn't around because she was defending Lothal.
Yeah.
Like you can write an ending to where there's an excuse for a character to have been. It's a big galaxy. They can be off doing their own thing. Especially the sequel trilogy takes place in a very short amount of time.
It really does. It's a couple years.
With 6, 7, and 8 taking place back to back. That's a particularly short. So you pretty much have the story of 7 and 8, and a couple years later you have 9. So and they're an even smaller force than the original Rebel Alliance even was. So it makes sense why, even if some characters are still alive in the sequel trilogy, why we would not see them. But yes, someone important. I don't think in Ahsoka someone important is going to die, just because I feel like they really want to use these characters to promote whatever this movie is.
Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie.
Yeah, I think they will really want these characters in that, and then someone will die in that.
No.
But we'll talk about our feelings about where things are going once we talk about Ahsoka. What other news you got?
I did have a thought from last week that Ezra is going to have a whole lot of new helmets to loot with all the night troopers.
Yes.
And I saw the ultimate Snoke theory. Normally, you're bringing this up. Someone posted, and I think they were being actually serious. This wasn't like the daily Snoke sightings or theories, whatever, page that you follow. I think this person's being genuine that they were theorizing that Snoke is Ezra.
Dear Lord. Oh, man. Come on. We're past this. We're past this, right? I thought we were, other than memeing about it.
Has anyone theorized that Luke is Snoke? That's probably been floated around a couple times.
Oh, I'm sure you've got every theory which way, especially now that there's so many new characters. I have a Transformers-related thing here. I just doing my weekly Transformers Google search into the news section. Transformers producers say there's a chance Rat Trap will join the franchise. And then here's a photo of him from what I presume is
Beast Wars.
So,
what are you showing me?
Not particularly interesting, but
one of our
the fact that we just talked about him.
one of our other favorite memes from the Batman movie. The penguin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what are you such so good. I have some Star Wars news. So Cameron Monaghan, who plays Cal Kestis in the Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, has confirmed that the third game is in the works.
Nice.
Which, I mean, I was not surprised, which is very exciting because, I mean, the last time Jedi Survivor takes place in the same year as Kenobi. So it's 9 BBY or something. Or maybe it's 5 BBY. Anyways, a very bad year for Vader.
Yes.
It was a rough time for him. So they're working on it. I mean, it's going to be huge, but they've started it. So yeah. I've got some other things. I don't know what you all have. I like how I said you all as if I'm speaking to more than Cameron.
Yeah.
As if I'm including Athena in this question.
What? Did you say you have another thing?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I think this is just more like an Easter egg that Dave Filoni threw in for funsies, but there is a scene from one of the earlier episodes where we see Baylan Skoll. He puts the map in the pedestal at Cetos. And we can see his communicator wrist. Someone translated the Aurebesh. Like, I don't know how they saw this, but someone did the work and translated the Aurebesh.
Wow.
On it.
Which is the, like, written basic language in Star Wars.
And they are names, including Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Ben.
And what were they? What was this language on?
His wrist communicator, that thing he looks at a lot. I think a lot of people are thinking this is probably just like a cool Easter egg to see. Like it is like when they showed that 2-second clip in Mando season 3 of a piece of glass and people translated it to a verse from Exodus. I think it's kind of like just an Easter egg.
Absolutely.
Unless that's his hit list, which it could be, but I don't think it's going to go that far. He's got some bigger fish to fry and some bigger hills to stand on ponderingly. So,
well, here's a news article that seems to be trying to move in on our Starformers turf. And they start a gang war with this website. Hasbro Pulse 2024 unleashes Star Wars and Transformers goodies. Look, no one else is allowed to put Star Wars and Transformers in the same thing except for us.
But Cameron, they make money from it.
So you got a Chopper toy. You got I think you sent me a screenshot of this. You got your Baylan toy announced.
I think I sent it to you and I went, let's go!
Was there another one? I thought there was another character. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, so those ones haven't released yet, but they've released Hera, Chopper, uniformed Ezra. I want Hermit Ezra. I want that.
Yeah, when you say
figure.
uniformed, what does that mean?
Like the uniform we see him in season 4, like in his hologram. The orange outfit.
So classic
yes.
Costume. Yeah, definitely. That and we'll talk about that later, but his new outfit that he's wearing is so great.
That's a comfy looking man.
Yes.
That man looks comfy. Okay, so I have one very specific thing I would like to talk about. So what's the rest of your news?
All I've got is actually something that was yours. I just looked it up. This band called Royish Good Looks.
I forgot I mentioned this before we started recording.
Actually, they seem to be entirely Star Wars based. All of their song titles clearly refer to Star Wars things.
Fan fiction.
But the one you brought out that is within the very specific parameters of what started this podcast, Bad Batch, is a song called Bad Batch. I gotta admit, I thought this would be way worse. Rachel, do not act like this is not the kind of music you listen to.
It isn't. It's just, it just makes me like cringe so deeply in my soul.
That could be a lot worse.
It could. I don't know. I don't know what it does. It just like, and it just makes me viscerally
makes me
react.
think of Sam Jackson from
I think it makes
Jurassic
me think of
Park.
like some various phase of like fan fiction. And,
Absolutely.
Like,
But Sam Jackson's character in Jurassic Park could be way worse. Could be much worse.
Someone who read the book and all the things they changed, it could be much worse.
Real quick, I just want to. Their most popular one has 4 million listens. It's called "Hello from the Dark Side."
Is that a Hello cover? It's an Adele cover.
I think we can probably guess how that one goes. Well, that's my one bit of news.
I love Adele. I love that song. Okay, so the meat of what
Hello? Is it me you're looking for? This is my terrible Palpatine impression.
Was pretty bad. Anyways, the meat of what I wanted to talk about in this news section is that the Zepho.
You have to remind me what that is.
Okay, so we are first introduced to the Zepho in Jedi Fallen Order.
I know where this is going. Yes.
So
yes.
the Zepho are basically an ancient force-wielding race of aliens that have not been around for a very long time, but a lot of their relics are still around. So very important part is, there's a lot of that exploration, and at some point, as we learn in Fallen Order, they have left the galaxy to seek other things. They allowed the Force to corrupt them in a very similar way that it happened to the Jedi in the prequels. As they continued to seek out more knowledge about the Force, the dark side corrupted them. And so they left the galaxy to cleanse themselves, to seek new knowledge, to remove themselves, basically.
Interesting.
So, some of the text found in Peridia, and some of the background scenes on this temple that they are in translates to it's Zepho markings. It is the Zepho markings that we see in Jedi Fallen Order, or similar characters there, and some of the text translates to "Praise Kujet, ruler of all, may his reign last." And Kujet is the dark side Zepho whose tomb we explored as Cal Kestis in Jedi Fallen Order. So we have seen that name before. We have seen that. And so that, that kind of causes the question, did the Zepho come from this other galaxy too? Considering the Zepho are, I believe, more ancient than, like, they're pretty ancient. And they left. That it kind of begs the question, did they originate from this galaxy and travel to the main galaxy, or did they leave? So, and the Zepho are older than the Night Sisters. At least by all canon that we know so far. They, I believe, were probably some of the first Force users.
That makes sense.
And so the last thing, like, as we know, like, one of the last things said when the Zepho left was, "I lead my people into the great unknown, hoping we will find peace." Mm-hmm. So, considering how ancient the Purgle are, there's this very interesting conversation one could have is, so this is very obviously Zepho. And in last episode, when Balin is talking with Shin before they meet with the bandits, he makes a comment that there is something out there on that planet, and it's old. it's old and it's powerful. And I think, there's a lot of okays at Night Sisters. I'm very much more thinking towards the Zepho. Even if you look at the statues, yes, they have some like Night Sister, like they have some Night Sister like influence. They look like Zepho statues that were eventually like carved to something else. So
interesting.
that is what I'm thinking. I'm like, I think they're like, it very much, if it continues to go down the Zepho route, there's a lot of connections that they could make.
Yeah,
we could just get live action Cal Kestis, honestly. But so that is a very interesting line I want them to explore. That's probably some of my favorite aspects in the Fallen Order and Jedi and Survivor series. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff running around as Cal Kestis evading the Empire, but learning about this ancient history stuff was really cool. Except I did hate the Zepho tomb in Fallen Order because I got lost every time. I had to look up how to leave because it was such a maze. I didn't know what to do. So anyways, that's so cool. I'm here for all this like Zepho lore, and seeing it in like live action is really cool. So,
all right. Well, we'll see what happens next episode. No leads on that from what I can tell with the episode we watched last night, but maybe episode 8.
Unfortunately,
we'll lead down that path. You have any other news before we move on? Well, cool. So before we talk about Ahsoka, we can briefly mention any highlights from the episode of Transformers G1 we watched tonight called Child's Play. Ultimately, I guess not that surprising of an episode to exist. Most notably for us, I think the most fun of it was the very cheap animation.
Oh, it's so bad. There's so many egregious mistakes.
Yes. But pretty much a handful of Autobots and Decepticons get teleported to an alien world where the aliens are like 10 times the Transformers size. And so it's pretty much Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or almost Toy Story-esque as well, with the Transformers as the small things. And there's a little boy trying to help them, and scientists want to dissect them. And that's about the whole episode.
There's a cat.
There's an alien cat. There's also an alien hamster elephant thing named Booper, which is a fun name.
Top tier.
I found his name. They probably mentioned the episode, but Frank Welker has a long list of characters he plays. Obviously, he's Megatron and Soundwave and Ravage, but he's also the cat Nitro, which...
Frank Welker is in everything. If there's a monster noise, it's 9 times out of 10 it's him.
The fact that the cat's name is Nitro, which is itself a very Transformers name, but he's also Booper, also Skywarp, and Trailbreaker. Just like, what is Transformers?
He's
what is this show?
Collecting many checks. Many $10 checks.
So if you get a kick out of cheap 80s animation, this is probably one of the best ones to watch of Transformers G1, because it is hilarious. Just both animation choices and just straight up mistakes, missing body parts, missing frames, characters warping in and out of scenes or phasing through objects. This is the kind of stuff you expect from CGI, because such mistakes can happen just naturally on accident.
Of them, I guess.
It shouldn't be happening in hand-drawn animation, though. And it's hilarious.
And I told Cameron, if I had a nickel for every G1 episode we've watched in the last 2 weeks that starts with the Decepticons causing trouble in a sports arena, we'd have 2 nickels.
Yeah, the episode does take a drastic change. The first 5 minutes or so is a fight in a baseball stadium, and it's all just a bunch of excuses to have baseball puns while they fight. And then it dramatically shifts in its subject and tone. I don't know about tone. It's still very goofy. But so any other highlights from this episode for you?
We got to see a very interesting frame of the Decepticons flying along with Ravage, who just runs in the air.
So Ravage is a jaguar, puma, panther sort of transformer. And whereas we know all the Transformers can just fly when it's convenient for them, he can fly, but he's also running in midair, and it's very funny to watch. In a similar shot, there's also a Decepticon who is not on that planet, is in the shot.
He's not!
And then he's not in the next shot. There's a great shot where, within about 3 seconds, you have 3 egregious animation errors. You have they're in the sewers, and Optimus Prime crawls out of a pipe, and he's like skipping around. Like if you ever played a video game online and your internet starts lagging and characters just start teleporting around, that's what he does here.
3 ping.
Yeah, he just like goes from being in the pipe to out of the pipe. And then the camera starts to pan up, and on top of the pipe, Starscream just appears. It's not like he, like, you know, obviously in this world things can teleport, but like he's supposed to have been there.
That's not his shtick.
Yeah, he's just pops into existence, and then he threatens Optimus Prime and kicks him, but he doesn't move, but his leg comes up from off frame, so you see his whole body. I don't think
that was his leg either.
I'm pretty sure it was the same color. There's no other Decepticons around.
I don't know. And then
it cuts angles, and Starscream jumps on him. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be his leg, and they just didn't animate him moving. Is my opinion on the.
They're not going to pay that much attention, right, guys?
And then it just, like, you can tell they were rushing to finish this episode right at the last second.
Misplaced cell layers.
Right at the last second, the little boy, the alien boy, is helping them. He goes over and grabs some Energon cubes and turns. And I guess the energy from the Energon cubes must have just decimated his atoms, because he turns and his entire upper torso just disappears for a few frames. And then he has a toy rocket ship, and he's putting this Autobots onto it, and they are like phasing into it. And then the cat also phases his head through the rocket ship and is much smaller than he should be. It's hard to actually encapsulate with just words. You just have to watch it.
You can find it on YouTube.
It's so good. Yeah, all Transformers episodes are free on YouTube. Watch it on 2 speed
for some of our listeners.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. So you ready to move on to talk about Ahsoka?
Yeah.
Ahsoka, Part 7, Dreams and Madness. Following up from last week's episode where all of our Ahsoka's on her way to... What, did you remember the name of this planet they're on?
Peridia.
Peridia. Well, thank you. Well, my brain, it doesn't hold on to these proper nouns very easily. Headed to Peridia. Sabine and our group of villains are already there. Thrawn has been revealed, and Ezra has been revealed.
I told Cameron before we started this, I was anxious going into this episode because before we found Ezra, as if it was us, before we found Ezra, you could do he's alive, he's probably alive, but now he's actually alive. There is actual possibility he could die. And that scares me.
And I said to you, I was walking into the room as you said that out loud, and I said, that's ridiculous, Rachel. They're not going to kill him in this episode. They'll probably wait till next episode.
Shut up.
And so it starts off, but it goes back to a plot thread that was left hanging 2 episodes ago. We start on Coruscant.
They solved this faster than I thought. I didn't think we were going to see it.
I really was, when I saw in the description of the episode that we were going to be dealing back with this New Republic is trying to court-martial Hera... I definitely thought this was going to take up way too much of the episode. Thankfully, it's one scene, which for the plot of the overall, for the sake of the overall plot, I'm happy about. But for the sake of the fact that they had this running plot through this whole show so far with Hera, this feels like they decided just to wrap this up really quickly. And it feels like I don't even know why they had this whole plot to begin with. So we see her at her court-martial in front of the Defense Council. And she's defending herself. It's pretty much a rehash of everything we heard last time we saw them of you shouldn't have done this. You're using resources. You're just trying to find Ezra. Mm-hmm. Any notes until a certain character shows up in her defense?
So we see hilarious Chopper in the background. Yeah,
you have Hera defending herself, and just behind her, barely peeking over a ledge, is Chopper. And it's so good.
And so Senator Ziono, who I don't like. He's mean, and I don't like him. He's the one that's very much against any possibility that the Imperial Remnant is actually a threat.
Yeah.
And so he is like, this is impossible. And Captain Teva is there. And Teva steps in and he goes, what about the conflict on Mandalore?
Yeah.
And I was like, so we have our Mando season 3 reference, which would make sense because Captain Teva was pretty involved in that situation. He was going behind some backs too, helping Mando and all of that. But so now we know, so it's going along. So I guess we do have confirmation that it's going along the same side, or almost parallel at least. So Captain Teva's like, what about Mandalore? And of course, the senator's like, that was an isolated, I don't know, whatever. He brushes it off. But that was just kind of interesting because I was like, oh, okay. So we have a reference of that outside of Mando. And then we have a certain character show up.
Yeah. Oh, one other note I wanted to make here. One of the senators, who I don't believe was in the hologram call previously, he is a particular species that we've seen before. I'm trying to find the name of the species. He's a Sulistan.
Yeah.
So this is one of the very few species that's actually named after the planet they're from, Sullust, who I know that recognize that planet. Where have we heard Sullust before? I know that's gotten a mention in a major thing. It's in a couple episodes of Clone Wars, it says here. Some Night Sister episodes.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I feel like there was an actual movie reference. Not really that important.
Did it get destroyed in The Force Awakens?
I don't think so.
Because it wasn't Coruscant that got destroyed because the New Republic moved.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure. It may have been. Nonetheless, this Sulistan, the most famous version of this is Nien Nunb, who is Lando's co-pilot in Episode 6 on the Millennium Falcon. He's got like these like flaps on his face. Well, this particular representative of this species in this episode, between two of the flaps, has a mustache, and it is disgusting, and I hate it so much. Why would they make this decision to give this man a mustache between the flaps? It's like,
Maybe
imagine
it was his real mustache and he was wearing a mask.
imagine if a fish had hair growing out of its gills. That's what it looks like. It's very unsettling.
Oh, but okay, yeah.
So that's my other note for this. And just shout out again to Chopper peeking over the. So good. And then
every time you stop running,
there's a moment somewhere in here where someone disparages droids. Oh, it'll be in a second. Okay, we'll get to that. So who shows up, Rachel?
Not Mando, which is what I was thinking, because this came very quickly after Tay was like, what about the conflict on Mandalore? And you just hear the guards go, ID, please. And I was going to be so upset. It was going to be Mando. I was like, please no.
He just plays his theme music. That's his ID.
It's our golden boy, not Disney's Mando golden boy, who's silver, the actual metal golden
the literal
boy.
golden boy.
C-3PO.
Shows up.
And he's played by...
Anthony Daniels.
Yeah, Anthony
himself.
Daniels. And he shows...
pretty much the only character that's always played by the original actor.
Yeah. So C-3PO shows up, interrupts this court, and he comes in and he has this little floppy disk. This little thing, and he goes, wait, actually, Hera's trip was sanctioned. And the senators are like, what? And C-3PO goes, Senator Organa sanctioned it, actually. And he kind of has a little bit, and C-3PO he's not very snarky. He's more of like a worrywart. But he gets a comment. I can't remember what exactly he says, because Senator Ziono is upset because he's trying to court-martial Hera. And C-3PO says, yes, she sanctioned this, while you guys tried to have a vote without her or something like that. And so it's kind of like throwing it back in Ziono, because I think even because you kind of hear the crowd go, like kind of react to that interestingly. So anyway, Hera's general ship role is saved, but probably not fully safe, because probably got a Senator Ziono will remember this in the top right of her like eyes or whatever. So court dismissed, and Mon Mothma comes up to Hera, and she's like, girl, you are on some thin ice. And so she asks, because Mon Mothma's like, when did Leia sanction your trip? And Hera tells her it was technically after, I think. Or I don't know if she actually confirms it or not, but it's pretty easy to tell that they probably just asked Leia, and Leia said, yeah, screw the government that she works for. But Leia does whatever she wants and gets away with it.
Leia does what Leia wants.
Leia does what Leia wants. So Mon Mothma asks Hera how imminent is Thrawn's return, or like how dangerous is this? And Hera's like, yes. And then I think the scene changes, right?
Well, we skipped over the part I wanted to mention, which is someone disparages droids trying to discount C-3PO's witness, and it cuts to Chopper.
And he's pissed,
swearing up a storm, presumably.
He's mad. He's ready
Anyways, that's a part that I
commit
liked.
some assassinations.
I've killed for less.
I've killed. So, and then the scene changes, right?
Yes.
Because there was a reference, and I can't remember when it is. Oh, gosh. It might be the next scene, but Asajj Ventress gets a mention in this episode.
Yeah, so in the next scene, it cuts to Ahsoka training on her ship while they're still in the Purrgil.
I forgot. I totally forgot this scene existed. I'm not going to lie.
As if the Clone Wars prequel fans weren't already freaking out about the episode from 2 weeks ago, Hayden Christensen appears again, this time as a hologram. I think that they may have cheaped out a little bit on the de-aging CGI because he's a hologram, because he looks a little ghoulish, in my opinion.
Rebels counterpart.
Especially when he's like out of focus in the background. But so this is a hologram recording that Anakin left behind for Ahsoka, kind of a video training. And he mentions some of their enemies, including Asajj Ventress, famous expanded universe, dark, not Sith, not officially, because you can only be 2 Sith, but Dooku's trained dark side assassin, pretty much.
When you say expanded universe...
Well, I would include anything outside the movies as expanded universe.
Oh, okay, because when I hear expanded universe... most times I've seen that referenced as like Legends.
Well, I mean, technically, that's when she was introduced. She was introduced in Legends originally. She came from the 2D animated Clone Wars cartoon.
But she's also in Clone Wars.
Yeah, I know. But she has never appeared. It's not, when I say expanded universe, I would say, would a normal person know who this character is or not? They have even a chance to. A normal person has not seen Clone Wars. She's not in the movies. She's not even mentioned in the movies.
She does that. She is in a book though, Post Order 66.
Really?
Yes.
I assumed that she was dead by that point.
Well, book spoilers. I think it's either Dark Apprentice or Dark Path. I do not want Darth Bane. No. I do not actually have this book, but so it's very interesting because I want to get the title right. I don't want Legends. I want actual real canon. It's called Dark Disciple. And so it is Post Order 66. And do you know who the other main character in this book is?
No. The Jar Jar?
No, gosh, no. We already know what happens to him. Quinlan Voss.
Oh, yes. We talked about this, I think. Another very famous expanded universe character. Because he was introduced way back when, I feel like, in the comics and books and stuff.
Yeah, and then they retconned him into Phantom Menace.
Oh, that's right. There's like an extra. Okay, so that's a question. Is that character based off that extra, or did he predate Phantom Menace?
I'm not quite sure.
He probably picked out that extra and decided to make him a character. Yes,
I'm fairly certain that's what they did.
So he doesn't go back as far as I would have thought.
No, I
don't
think
reason.
He does.
But still, though, I mean, that's still pretty early on, nonetheless. For this, as far from that's like 20 years ago. So we get what happens now after the training.
She finishes
ends.
the training, and then the Purrgils are slowing down. Are you laughing?
Well, you really laughed at the comment I had when they. Hu Yang says, according to my instruments, they seem to be slowing down. I just said, slams on brakes.
Oh, yeah.
The Purrgils come to an abrupt stop and spit out Ahsoka.
Yeah. So, Purrgils are slowing down. They go back to the start of the ship, or the cockpit, and the whales are in distress. And they're not quite sure why. There's definitely something going on outside. And so they're like, okay, we need to get out. So they get out of the whale mouth. And Thrawn has set up hundreds of mines.
It's like tens of thousands.
Yes, tens of thousands of mines outside the planet, like in rings. And he did that fast.
Yeah, well, I would presume they were probably already there. Just the only other people we've seen come to this planet had authorized access to it.
But so, yeah, the whales are just getting slammed by all these mines because once they're activated, they go towards whatever is moving. So Hu Yang and Ahsoka and their ship, they're able to kind of take cover. And then the Purgles go, we out.
Yeah.
And they hyperspace jump away. They are gone because, they're wise creatures. And they're like, we are not going to continue driving through explosions. So then suddenly it's just Ahsoka and Hu Yang dodging all the mines. And then some fighters get sent out to intercept them and destroy them.
This kind of gets into a frustration I have for this episode. I think it eventually gets better. I think it ends in a good place, this episode. This whole segment, it goes straight from them flying through a minefield to them flying through the quote-unquote asteroid belt around this... Not asteroid belt, sorry, that's a
whale
different
bones.
term. Yeah. The rings around this planet that are all whale bones. Flying through that, avoiding these fighters. It's a very long segment
It really is.
That's fun. I think it's like incredibly well made. Like especially like a TV show. Like if you showed this to someone 20 years ago. This obviously looks better than Attack of the Clones. This looks better than a lot of even movies released in theaters. It looks great for a TV show.
Spinning, that's a good trick.
Yeah, this ship spins a lot.
I could not survive in Star Wars and in one of those ships. I would just throw up.
But while this is an incredibly well executed sequence, it's very fun. It's very energetic. It's exciting.
Hu Yang is freaking out. That is a stressed man.
It's not really furthering the plot. And something similar to what I said last episode when Sabine was kind of just wandering the wasteland. I'd be fine if this was the first or second act of this show, but we're in the fourth quarter here. We're at the end. Things really need to ramp up as far as like getting to the point. So it's a little frustrating to have just a long action sequence. I know, like, what do you have the inverse of this is, I remember when WandaVision came out. People were so mad there was no action in that show. And I was, like, in love with it. Because, like, great. Give me something that's not just action. I mean, I like action, but I also like storytelling and, like, different things in a universe. And so I know that they're probably sensitive to the fact that you need like action sequences or people get bored, unfortunately. Jingle, 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 look at these keys. But this is just not furthering the plot very much. And I mean, I'm not saying you don't need any of this. I'm just saying you have two things here. You have the mines and the chase.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like you need both. It's back to back at least. So this is my frustration with this show. I don't hate it. It's just a bit frustrating.
Now, I will say, so they take shelter in one of the whales or whatever is left of the
skeletons.
Whales. Yeah, skeletons. There's all skeletons in it. And so...
Niche reference point. Oh, the kitty.
No, that's people outside.
Oh.
They're being very loud. So there's a moment where it kind of cuts back to Thrawn, and Thrawn, because they're like, we lost her. And Thrawn's like, Night Sisters, find her. And they use Night Sister voodoo magic to find her in the asteroid belt. Now there's a comment that because he knows Ahsoka Tano, he knows that name, and so Thrawn says, I want all the information you have on Ahsoka Tano, and I think Enoch has it.
Well, something he's
let me get to it.
It would seem like he doesn't know who she is.
Yeah, it would seem like he doesn't know who she is.
I thought you said she does.
Which, that makes sense because he says, well, and so I'll get to that in a second. He's like, give me the information you have. So they give the information, and he looks at it. And Thrawn says, her master was Anakin Skywalker. And Morgan's like, yeah. Because that means nothing to her. I think this is like the first time, maybe the second time, we've seen Thrawn look scared.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe the first one was when... actually, maybe, I don't know, maybe third. We see whenever he kills Bendu, and Bendu is really vaguely creepy to him and is like, you will die surrounded by...
I see your defeat surrounding you like many arms.
Yeah, and Thrawn's like, what is going on?
Bendu.
And then it actually happens, and it's like, haha, psych. It's actually literal.
I saw someone hinting, like no one involved with the production, but someone making a vague fan theory suggestion that Bendu might show up. And that really got my hopes up, man.
I'd be all for that.
And for those who don't know, Bendu is a large creature who is very sentient.
He's like
force
a
user.
Neutral force being.
He's just he lives. I mean, he's like a big wizard.
He's a gray Jedi, Cameron.
Yeah, he's not a Jedi. He is from Rebels. He's just a creature who just lived out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
and
he's an entity.
Kanan just stumbled upon him by accident, and he just is just kind of vibing. He just he's a force of nature. He's like a big hippie but he's very intense though.
Yeah.
And he taught Kanan some skills, but also got really pissed when the Empire showed up on the planet. And he's like, I came out here to not be found,
and you guys screwed it up.
Jedi Knight Kanan Jarrus. He's so good. He's so voiced by I'm gonna forget the first name, last name Baker, one of the most famous Doctor Who's. The fifth Doctor, Jim? I think, the one with the famous Jim Baker is a different guy. He's the Doctor Who that's famous for the big scarf. It's just an incredible voice performance.
I think that's number 4.
Okay, you're probably right.
That's not. Ooh, my mom's gonna hammer you for that one because she loves.
I've never seen Doctor Who prior to the new stuff.
And if I'm wrong, I'm getting disowned. Anyways,
so if we saw Bendu,
I would lose it in top tier.
Though that's more expensive CGI than trying to do Zeb, and we haven't seen Zeb, so we do get a Zeb mention in this episode, though.
So, anyways, this is like one of the few times Thrawn looks maybe not scared, but like he has his oh shit moment because. So here's the thing: if you do some timeline, so Thrawn during the Republic time worked with Anakin Skywalker when he was a Jedi. They were on missions together. And this was after Ahsoka left. Someone did the timeline. This is after Ahsoka left, so he would not know who Ahsoka is. Fast forward.
I see.
Thrawn is one of the few people who knew who Vader was.
Yes.
And he kind of flaunts that in Vader's face, but not in a specific way that would actually get him killed. But he mentions Anakin Skywalker a couple of times. So either he theorized it or he if he didn't know, he was probably 90% sure of who Vader was. So with this context, makes total sense that Thrawn sees who trained her and he's like,
yeah, a guy like Thrawn would only need to see Vader fight once and figure out who he is.
And so I think, and Morgan catches on this too, because she's like, what's wrong? And he recovers and he's like, he says something about Ahsoka. This means our enemy is very unpredictable. So Thrawn's going to have to be playing 4D chess or 5D chess really to counter Ahsoka. He already plays 4D chess on his own, but yeah. So I liked that. I thought that was kind of interesting because I'm like, I think that's a valid reaction if you knew that Vader's Anakin Skywalker and knew who Anakin Skywalker was. It Anakin, is that what this is about, Skywalker? To be kind of like, our hands just got a whole lot more full. So yeah, that was interesting. We kind of, I didn't take a lot of notes this.
Yeah, so I've got it playing in front of me, so I can.
Okay, good.
So they call off the fighters. They're trying to. Thrawn just makes some vague statements about trying to lead Ahsoka down a predictable path
Dude
into
is
their hands.
sweating. He's kind of sweating right now. He's like...
We cut to Sabine and Ezra in their mobile home as the entire group is traveling.
It's a caravan.
Yeah, a caravan of these fun turtle guys.
It's Burning Man.
Oh, no. Some of these men burn in this episode.
Oh, okay.
Sabine is catching Ezra up on everything that happened since he left and being vague and not giving him answers about how she got there or where Ahsoka is or anything, really. And that's pretty much the gist of the conversation as far as I can remember. And then Balin and Shin and the other raiders show up.
There's a bunch of those raiders. They recruited.
Yeah, there's a good amount of them. And then Thrawn uses the Night Sisters to locate where Ahsoka is hiding amongst all the skeletons.
Bones.
We are just shy of Spooktober.
Oh,
We're getting
we
close.
are.
It's September 27th today. And then Ahsoka reaches out in the Force to try to find Sabine, and Huyang says to her, "Do you think your connection is that strong?" And then
Ahsoka's like, shh.
Everything goes quiet, and it is almost, if not entirely identical to the exact sound editing of when Rey and Kylo do their Force FaceTime in Last Jedi, of how like everything goes quiet,
like the dyad.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. But yes,
they're able to do theirs because they're dyad,
yes.
because they're across
but
the
this
galaxy.
Is Master and Apprentice, yeah.
This is a Master and Apprentice. They're much closer.
Yeah.
She knows, and they don't even see each other. They just connect emotionally. It's a significantly weaker connection, but it's a very similar
pay per minute
element.
Force call.
Yes. And I love this. I think this is very visually well done. It's the first time, I think what they're going for is we're really seeing Sabine have her first real Force encounter.
Can you
from what I can
imagine
tell.
your teacher just pops into your head?
No, thank you.
So here's the thing that I thought was very interesting, because we've seen, so of course we've seen the Force dyad between Kylo and Rey, which is so strong. That's so strong to the fact that they can visually see, and Ahsoka ends up being able to pinpoint where Sabine is, but like it is actually quite literally like a FaceTime, or like between Rey and Ben. Almost said Ren and Bay.
I love that.
So, but it kind of reminds me of, so it's been a while since we've seen season 7 of Clone Wars. Funnily enough, that's the only season Cameron has seen, and the first season I ever watched. When it
I've
came
seen
out.
some of season 1 and 2 of Clone Wars.
I just mean like full season.
And other scattered episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, season 7 is the only. Well, I've seen all of season 1 and season 2.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Just way back, and I've seen scattered episodes.
Of all the seasons to watch.
Well, yeah, I know, but I burnt. But then I went through and I looked through the episode descriptions. I'm like, okay, which episodes am I going to want to watch? And I chose to watch the episode I knew I'd be interested in.
And so, I mean, this also stretches back through, but it kind of reminds me in season 7 when Ahsoka is leaving with the sisters. She's leaving Coruscant, and Anakin.
Not the Night Sisters, to clarify.
No, not the Night Sisters.
Like, they have like a particular name.
They're in the Bad Batch.
Like the Whereas sisters or something like that.
Something like they were the two sisters that like took Ahsoka in, and she worked for them in season 7. So there's a scene where Anakin is in a command tower on Coruscant, and it's the big main command tower, because Ahsoka's been gone for a while. The last time he saw her, they absolved her of her crimes, but she's still left. I mean, valid. I don't know, I would have been tempted to do the same. And so this ship actually flies out without clearance codes. And the Admiral, he's whoever is the narrator for Clone Wars, it's that actor. He asks Anakin, he was like, whoa, wait, that doesn't have clearance codes. Do we impound it? Do we call it down? And Anakin doesn't answer, and he closes his eyes and he senses. He can sense Ahsoka on the ship. And Ahsoka can do the same thing. We don't hear the voices, but they sense each other. And Anakin's like, no, let it go. And we see the same thing in Return of the Jedi.
Yes. With
Anakin, with Vader and Luke. It's Luke's, that scene where Luke's like, I should not have come. I've just endangered all of you.
But this is almost like, it's almost the other direction. Those two instances you just described is like a Jedi has within their like proximity, like a force detection field.
But that's what I was saying. It's specifically detection. It's not voices.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not some like this in Ahsoka is not like just randomly out of left field. We have seen connections between that at distances before.
But I would say what distinguishes these two things, why would require more?
Yes.
Rather than just
I'm not saying it's the same at all.
No, I know. I'm saying it's like the distinction, like what distinguishes these two sequences between what you're describing and this scene is, whereas those sequences, someone has entered the Jedi's area and they sense it. In this instance, it's a Jedi specifically reaching out, trying to find a specific person in an unknown area. And it's one of the few times that Jedi power feels like something's happening. Like they're doing something. Like normally Jedi powers are actually vague. Normally either vague feelings or very specific, like force push or jump or whatever. Whereas this is like more mystical. And people have been really talking about how mystical this show is, in stark contrast to Andor being just straightforward, normal
Very
people
wizard.
throwing bricks at each other. This is like
Gosh, I love Andor. It's so good.
So I like that, and it's just cool to see. This is like one of the times where both actors really nail what's going on. Ahsoka nails her end. The actress who plays Sabine really nails the facial performance
Natasha.
of having the feelings. So yeah, it's a cool scene. And then
That's also at that moment. That's when they're found. Their location is pinged.
yeah, so Thrawn's Star Destroyer. No, it's not the Star Destroyer. It's
the ring.
The Eye of Sion uses its cannons.
The One Ring to rule them all.
And they flush out Ahsoka. She goes for Sabine. This leads. So then we get a sequence where I'm watching it right now. The Baylan and Shin and the Raiders attack the caravan, and we get like a chase sequence here, and we get the turtle people just throwing whatever they have on hand.
So good, and they are making an impact.
And I'm trying to think. This feels very reminiscent of a different movie. There's another movie where like characters are just throwing. Oh, it's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
When they don't have any cannonballs, and so they start loading the cannons with whatever.
With silverware and kitchenware. And they're helping.
Yes, and it's a very fun sequence.
The scene of in that Pirates of the Caribbean of them doing like the forks and stuff is ingrained, where it launches and it hits
one of the guy with the wooden eye hits him right in the wooden eye.
Right in the wooden eye. That is ingrained in my eyes.
That series is so gross.
It's not pierogi. That's not the name I'm thinking of. It's Rigetti.
Yes,
that's his
pierogi.
Name. I was close.
So the Raiders take down one of the turtle people's.
They're home. They shot his wheels out.
And so Ezra refuses to leave him behind, and so they circle up and go back and save him.
And what did you say, Cameron?
I don't remember.
He said he leaves the 99 for the one.
Yeah, so up to this point, we're making a bunch of Jesus jokes, which has been the common joke on the internet this last week.
Wake up, babe! New Space Jesus just dropped. It was the favorite one I saw because everyone says that Obi-Wan, like specifically Attack of the Clones, looks very much like a stereotypical picture of Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
and then the jokes of Ezra. I love it. So funny.
So Ahsoka and Huyang show up to help, and Ahsoka's plan is to jump out of the ship, and Huyang is
Anakin.
Really concerned about this, but I said to you, this is just basic Jedi stuff. Yeah. Jumping out of a moving ship, Jedi do that every episode of Clone Wars.
Especially if you're Anakin Skywalker's Padawan, you just jump.
Like that's, I feel like, especially like maybe even specifically Ahsoka, that's like her thing.
Yeah.
Like the big climactic moment of Clone Wars season 7.
I did make that reference. I did comment. I was like, she survived a free fall from a Venator. She's fine.
And so, but she does, in doing so, lead the Empire. Well, the Night Troopers, this Imperial remnant, straight to our other heroes.
And who does she land like 10 feet from?
Baylan.
Who is yet again standing pensively by himself, looking at the sky.
This man,
he's a philosopher.
Someone should calculate how much of percentage of Ray Stevenson's paycheck went to him just standing around.
That's why he had that like hallway scene at the beginning, because he just stands for the rest of the season.
But her landing next to Baylan, having a rematch.
It's so funny because she lands and they're both kind of like, oh, hi.
Her having her rematch against Baylan is emblematic of something I do love about the show, which is our heroes and villains are constantly interacting.
And one thing we forgot to mention is that Baylan has sent the Raiders in Shin, like he sends Shin by herself. he does not go with her.
Yeah,
She
Shin is
comments
with
on it.
the Raiders attacking
and she's like,
Sabine
"You're
and
not
Ezra.
going with me," and he's like, "No, go claim your place in this new empire. Kill Ezra and kill Bridger and kill Ren." And it's kind of interesting because I kind of got this feeling that Shin was kind of pissed. I got this feeling that she was just kind of, it's almost like she's like, "Are you for real?"
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to that in a moment because that little thread continues. But Baylan and Ahsoka, what I was getting at a moment ago was the villains and heroes in this series are constantly interacting, which I love because too many of these kinds of stories, superhero stuff, science fiction stuff, action movies, if the hero and villain ever meet, which sometimes they don't even meet, it's at the very end of the thing. And ultimately, you just have like two different stories going on that are barely related. You have the hero's story and the villain's story. And I much prefer most stories for the villain and hero to interact so that they have a reason to hate each other.
Yeah.
And you get that's like, what is the best, like when people think of this kind of stuff, people love Batman and Joker talking in The Dark Knight. That's what people love. Is just the hero and villain talking. Fighting is great, but talking is even better a lot of the time. Especially like the fighting only works if they've talked before. And so just the amount of like the distinctions, the parallels between Shin and Sabine and Ahsoka and Baylan. And now obviously we haven't had as many interactions with Thrawn, but we've had those in the past. We've had those in the other shows, so we don't need that as much now because we know. But at the very least, we did get an interaction between Thrawn and Sabine, so we've seen that. And so they continue to fight, and Shin shows up to fight Ezra, and I don't know if it's not Shin, it's just the Raiders.
Yeah.
So Ezra and Sabine and the other turtle people, they circle up and they get out of their car.
And Sabine tries to give Ezra his almost said laser, his lightsaber.
Yes. And Ezra refuses it and says the Force is my ally. And this is the most baller move, man. Ever since Last Jedi, the ending of Last Jedi, where Luke, instead of doing what everyone expects him to do,
Jedi Stan podcast.
When Luke projects himself and quote unquote fights Kylo without actually fighting him,
I love it.
That made me realize
that's very Qui-Gon of him.
And that in parallel to Yoda not ever fighting. I mean, he's never in a chance to fight in the original trilogy, but like you don't see him with a lightsaber. You don't see him do any fighting.
He's just running around his swamp, cackling.
And when Obi-Wan says, "If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine," he doesn't come back to life as a warrior. He becomes an ethereal force ghost.
And we see Luke fight against the dark side in Return of the Jedi when the Empire's trying to goad him into a fight, and Luke says, "I won't fight you." Well, he says
throws
it to Vader.
his lightsaber away.
Yeah.
All of these led me to the conclusion that the absolute pinnacle of being a Jedi is not fighting. Well,
I mean, go ahead. Sorry, don't we see that almost with Kanan at the end of season 4?
Yes.
Granted, there's not a lot of options. We see it at Kanan. Kanan sacrificed himself. He could have probably just jumped down and tried to go fight, but he didn't. And we see it with Ezra at the end of season 4. Instead of going to fight Thrawn, he yeets them both into space. So I
guess I would track my phrase. I mean, yes, ultimately, if a Jedi could solve a problem without fighting, that is the pinnacle.
Yes.
But that's not always possible. Yes. So more broadly, I would say a Jedi relies solely on the Force. That the lightsaber, while I love lightsabers,
it's a tool.
It's a crutch. Oh. It's a thing that a younger Jedi needs because they can't rely on the Force as much because they're not trained as well. But when you get to a certain point where you both have the talent and training and skill and experience, but also the understanding of how the Force works, and you do away with the lightsaber, the weapon, and you purely become a Jedi who relies on the Force to solve your problems. Either you do have to fight, but it's significantly less brutal and less lethal, and you give your enemies a chance to give up.
Yeah.
Like, by force pushing, like, what we see in this sequence is Ezra doing a lot of force pushing. That gives you, I mean, I'm extrapolating and adding my own analysis here, but I would say that gives your enemy a chance to give up. You're not blatantly you're either trying to knock them out or you're trying to get to scare them. And a lightsaber is a brutal weapon. And nonetheless, the fact that he denied using a lightsaber and just purely wanted to use the Force, in that line, the Force is my ally, so good.
And we went, true Jedi,
True Jedi,
true Jedi, true Jedi. That's good.
And except that quote's taken directly from Yoda. That's what Yoda said in The Empire Strikes Back, is the Force. I don't know how Yoda specifically says it, but he says a very similar line about the Force being his.
He got all of his, Ezra on this planet has collected all of his Lego studs and has become a true Jedi.
Yes, good Lego Star Wars reference.
So they fight. They've taken out the Raiders, but so Hu Yang also distracts, or basically kind of carpet bombs Balin.
Good.
And distracts Balin, because I mean that would personally distract me too. I think if I got carpet bombed, and creates a dust cloud with enough time for Ahsoka to steal his horse dog and escape to go help Sabine and Ezra. And it's funny because Balin just kind of stands there after that, almost kind of like pensively again once more. So the two squadrons that were sent, that Thrawn sent after Ahsoka and Hu Yang's ship, have now, located the battlefield. And so good chunk of night troopers are there, and they surround Sabine and Ezra. And in one of the most peak Ezra moments, because Shin goes, kill them. And Ezra goes, wait. He puts his hands out, and surprisingly, they wait, which is funny enough. And he goes, we could talk about this, which is the most on-brand Ezra thing he could do. We see Ezra pulling stuff like that in Rebels all the time. Just wacky things like that. I thought that was very peak Ezra.
And then he tries to surrender.
Yeah,
He's like, you can take us as your prisoner.
Which is, he goes, yeah, you can take us prisoner, which is hilarious because he's done that so many times. Not like fake surrendered, which I think is against the Geneva Convention, actually. I think it's actually a war crime to fake surrender and then take advantage of your enemies. Anyways, and then
Ahsoka saves them.
Yes, Ahsoka saves them. It's suddenly 3 Jedi, and they start fighting, and they just start decimating.
Oh man, we skipped over something. So how
really?
Shin enters the scene, or maybe it's after this.
Oh, Ezra force blocks her lightsaber.
Yeah, that's also very cool. But she comes out of nowhere, and he narrowly dodges it. And
she cut his hair!
And it singes his hair.
He was like...
And, man, it's just like little things like that. Just like the comments, the fight scene, how the lightsaber looks when he's like force holding it back.
Yeah.
This sequence, I freaking love.
So good. So good.
Because we are getting character stuff. We're getting to see what Ezra's like now. We're getting interactions between Ezra and Sabine, interactions between them and Shin. It's different from the space battle. I love space battles, but space battles don't really give enough space for for character development. Whereas land battles like this, and especially once they get out of their little pod mobile homes, it becomes almost entirely practical. You have guys in actual stormtrooper costumes, guys in actual raider costumes. Like everything that's happening is really happening, as opposed to space battles, which are like entirely CGI. It's just so satisfying. We're getting, and it's, again, if you're a Rebels fan, you already know who Ezra is as a character, so you're just getting to like appreciate him being there. And one more comment about you saying the surrendering and trying to talk it out was very Ezra. And another element of them trying to really capture Ezra, the character, in the cartoon, most people would say he has purple eyes. According to Wikipedia, he has blue eyes.
Yeah.
If this is blue, this is like the deepest blue possible.
Yeah.
They are clearly CGI. It's funny that both him and Thrawn have CGI eyes.
And Hera. I think they did Hera too.
Ezra's eyes in this are so bright.
That is a blue-eyed man.
And I appreciate it. It's not like totally overly done, but it does make him look a little bit more like the cartoon character, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's so Ahsoka shows up. And it's kind of just like Shin at this point. And well, actually, no, it's not just Shin at this point. So they've killed some of the stormtroopers, and then Thrawn's like, call him back. Thrawn is watching this from his little, I don't know, NFL football drone. That was the only thing I could relate it to. This little drone flies away. He's like, call him back. And he calls back the stormtroopers, night troopers. And he makes a comment that we're missing a player. Lord Balin Skoll.
Yeah.
And Morgan is kind of
he's very smug about this.
He's very anti-Balin Skoll.
Like, I think the fact that he's a former Jedi really puts him off.
Yeah.
And he, like, he seemingly feels very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he knew Balin was going to fail. And he's like, man, he didn't even try.
Whether he knows Balin is actually alive or not. Maybe he thinks he's dead. Maybe he thinks Ahsoka killed him. But, so, sorry, our editor's trying to fit an empty box of floss in her mouth right now.
It's like nothing's happening.
Anyways, so
Ahsoka.
Thrawn comes back. The night troopers dip, and then it's just Shin against 3 Jedi. And
did she always have eye makeup?
Yes.
I did not notice before. It looks I think it's because this is just broad daylight now.
Yeah, it's actually the lighting. Instead of her just like staring unblinkingly into the camera as she flies a ship through space. So yeah, she's always had eye makeup. And so, at least as far as I'm aware, in most scenes, maybe it's a little more in this scene. Maybe she had time to do her makeup before they left. I don't know. So it's just Shin and Ahsoka. Ahsoka's like, I can help you. She offers for Shin to join them. And Shin looks big confused. And I think she looks pissed to me.
Mostly that she's been abandoned by her entire side.
Abandoned by Balin first, and then ultimately, by the forces. And so she just turns and runs away.
Yes.
Saying nothing.
And to quickly take a step back to Thrawn explains why he's bringing back all his troops.
Yeah.
It pretty much just boils down to, we're about to be done and ready to leave.
Yeah.
They can't stop us, so we're just going to leave.
Yeah. And he's like, they don't have a way. He's kind of implying, Purgles probably aren't going to come back. They're stuck here now.
Yeah. And so I'm a little annoyed by this because I really love this whole sequence, and it feels like it is a little anticlimactic with all the stormtroopers just retreating. But if you think about it, he does have limited stormtroopers. Yeah. As soon as the tables turn and Ahsoka is there and Balin's not, it's like, he calculates, he's like, we're going to lose too many. Even if we did win, we would lose too many stormtroopers. And I need these guys. Like, I don't know how many stormtroopers there are back in the other galaxy. But it does feel like he's like, actually, you could see this kind of as a win for us. Like, it's a little too, like, it kind of goes back to, Palpatine's always like, this is exactly as I have foreseen. Like, everything's always as he foresees. And sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. With Thrawn, everything's always a part of his plan. Everything is always like, actually, I won because this happened. And
I won because I didn't lose.
And he almost starts to make sense. He says Ahsoka has lost the one thing that she can't, time. And I do like the idea of, it does make sense to a degree of, we just needed to delay these people. We needed to just rattle them up, give them a fight.
They were almost done packing up whatever they were getting from the catacombs, which is, I want to know what's in there.
But like, I just don't know how much time was actually lost by them doing this. Like,
they were almost done loading the cargo when I think Ahsoka was showing up. So, or maybe that was towards the end, but yeah.
It just doesn't, it feels like, I really like why I think people love Thrawn. I'm not really familiar with his original appearances, but at least his Rebels appearances is there, even when he did quote unquote lose, he always gained something he wanted. One of my favorite bits is like, they know that they have a spy, and it's Callus.
You can never remember his name, Cameron.
There's a map that has they're trying to find the rebel base, and Thrawn is narrowing down the options of potential planets, and
They delete one.
They delete it.
That one, and he notices, and he's like, "There's something missing here."
Yeah, and so while Callus escapes and the rebels get away in that episode,
No, he doesn't. I guess like his cover isn't blown. He doesn't technically escape.
they're trying to stop the rebel. Obviously, his objective is to capture the rebels, and they escape in that episode. So he technically loses, but he gets the information he wants.
Yeah, he's like.
And that episode ends with you being, oh crap! Like that's always what would happen with those episodes of Rebels with Thrawn is the episode would end and you'd be like, oh crap! Thrawn actually got what he wanted. It didn't really feel like that happened here. Like it didn't really feel like, oh crap! Thrawn actually won in this instance. Like yes, he was able to delay them and they're about to leave, but it didn't feel like. And he did before the battle even started. He got what he wanted. Ahsoka led them straight to where Ezra was. But it also doesn't feel like Ezra should have been that hard to find. There's very little on this planet, and they're traveling around in big metal mobile homes.
I actually saw a very interesting quote about this. Is probably one of the most like poetic comments I've ever seen on Facebook. And some people were having that same question. How did the Night Sisters notice Ahsoka, but they couldn't find Ezra?
Oh,
and someone
that's a really
said,
good question.
This is, like I said, this is the most poetic thing I've seen on Facebook, like ever. So let me read it. It's easy to see where a stone is thrown into the water as it creates ripples, but to find a specific stone sitting quietly in the riverbed is a different story. Ahsoka's arrival rustles the threads of fate as a new variable arrives, where Ezra is already a known quantity.
Yeah, he gets settled in and he's kind of living nomadically.
He's vibing.
That's fair enough.
Man is pure vibes. So, Shin escapes. There's like I like this reunion between Sabine and Ahsoka. It's just a little awkward because Sabine is like, sorry, because they didn't exactly, have the best terms before they were separated. But I like the reunion that Ahsoka has with Ezra. It's very sweet.
I agree.
So
it's a great ending to, especially the second half is a great episode. Really love the energy, love the fun of this episode. I did realize halfway through this sequence that it's a very gray, like it's just lacking color. This kind of goes back to what I said last episode of I really was hoping this other galaxy would be more fanciful and and it's just this gray. It's like being in Michigan in the winter. It's just not fun.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I wanted to we forgot to comment on. So when we first see Sabine and Ezra in this episode, Sabine is pretty much kind of catching Ezra up on everything that's happened since he's been gone, the fall of the Empire and all of that. She's like, and he goes, so the Emperor's dead? And she's like, that's what they say.
Another somewhat meta joke.
Yeah.
After last week's long time ago, Galaxy Far, Far Away. And also the first part is always best joke.
Yeah. And we get our Zeb reference. No Zeb sightings. Because he's like, because she's catching him up on where everyone is. And he's like, so Hera's at the New Republic and Zeb's training recruits, which would make sense that why he was on that island in Mando season 3.
Yeah.
That base, if he's training people. Specific lack of someone else.
His boyfriend.
No mention.
That put in my head the idea of a show of Zeb having a school, which could be a lot of fun, I think.
Oh, that'd be cute. So that was kind of fun. And so one thing I mentioned, like right as the episode ended, was that I told Cameron, I don't know, I feel like Shin is going to kill Baylan next episode.
Could very well happen.
I don't know. I just got the vibe, the energy that she, I don't know. She looked mad to me when he was like, I'm not going to help you with this. You have to do this. She looked mad. And so she's kind of been abandoned. So I don't know. It feels like Baylan is very set in where he is in the Force. Like as a Force user, and Shin feels like she's traipsing into that dark side. So, I mean, it's very usual for dark side users to kill their masters.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and while this whole series has had very clear parallels between Sabine, Ahsoka, and Shin and Baylan, typically when you have the villains and heroes are paralleling for the most part. At the end, they end in two very different places. It feels like Ahsoka and Sabine are going to make up and reform their connection. Well, the opposite of that.
Things are a little tense back home on the range. So next week is the last episode.
Yes.
Which is...
We're ready for it.
Oh, gosh. So
let's go. I'm really psyched. It's, like I said last week, we have
I hope it's long.
Yes, we have very much blown past my worry of having little to no Thrawn or Ezra. We've gotten a great amount. I obviously would have liked more, but I'm happy with what we've gotten so far. It's been great. Now I just hope for something that's got some closure. Not complete closure.
I want to see the Zepho. I want to see the Zepho.
I want something more than just a cliffhanger. Like, I love cliffhangers. I think, like, favorite Star Wars thing is Empire Strikes Back. I think that movie both has an incredible complete story and a cliffhanger. You can do both. So I'm hoping that it just feels like this season of Ahsoka told its own story. You probably are going to get some sort of closure with Shin and Baylan. So there's that. And you're probably going to get some sort of closure with the relationship of Ahsoka and Sabine. And that's probably good enough. I think it was a fun episode. Really looking forward to the end. Some fun comments off of Reddit that I'm seeing here. Ezra, so much has changed while I was gone. What do you mean Jabba's dead? Oh yeah, Senator Organa killed him in a bikini. Zeb is training recruits off screen.
He met Leia.
Yeah.
Which is hysterical.
Zeb is training recruits off screen, not eating up budget.
Oh no.
So yeah. Our editor is doing a big stretch.
Oh, she wants to eat the floss container.
Do you have any final comments before we go into Meme Minute?
I'm excited and anxious where we're going to go next.
It's going to be good. One more week.
What a perfect time to have a Mando episode.
Oh.
I would be pissed.
Can you imagine just they're like, oh crap. We need Mando in this.
Oops. Or we just get a Boba Fett episode. What's he been up to?
Well, welcome to the final segment of our show called Meme Minute, but it's longer than a minute because it normally goes on for like 20 minutes, which I don't know how that relates to a meme parsec or a meme astrosecond. But nonetheless, Rachel, do you have any videos to show
I
this
do.
week?
I have two videos and I actually saved them instead of just opening them on TikTok.
Ah, good call.
They're both the same theme. Someone on TikTok, Cole right now has been doing some hysterical Donald Trump impressions.
Okay.
Themed about how Donald Trump would probably be commenting on Star Wars events as if he was in Star Wars.
Let's do it.
And so it's just, I got two. I only did two. My favorite one got deleted and I'm really quite sad.
Newt Gunray is a failure. The invasion of Naboo was a colossal mistake, so big. I recently spoke to him via holotrans receiver. Somehow I could still smell his terrible breath. So disgusting.
That's
great.
I gotta know what. It's just, they're cracking me up. My favorite one was when he did about Jango Fett, and I think it got deleted. I'm so sad.
No.
I was so sad because he makes comments like, great man, we need more of him. Which is clone joke. Clone humor, I guess you could say.
I see.
I just enjoyed a warm meal at lifelong friend Dexter Jetster's ex's diner on Coruscant. It's so beautiful, it's delicious, and he still hasn't named a sandwich after me as requested, so what gives, Dax? Your ratings would go through the roof. I guarantee it, and it's so true. Here's the Larry David sandwich. What about the Donald Trump sandwich, Dax? What's going on?
Anyways, it's just, I don't know. It's just so funny. He's too good at it. He's too good at that impression. That's all the videos I got.
Well, I've got a meme here. This has been a very common joke this last week. You actually already mentioned it. But it's a little bit more of a twist on it from what you already said.
Twist.
It's got a photo of Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan, and a photo of live action Ezra. And it just says over Obi-Wan what people think Jesus looked like. And then over Ezra, what Jesus actually looked like.
We've made so many chosen references.
What else you got, Rachel?
Purely visual.
I got this one too.
Oh, man. So this is a picture of the first sighting of Enoch when he turns around, but someone has photoshopped it so his mask is popped off and it's Babu Freak as if he's
so
controlling
funny.
him.
It's really well photoshopped too. It's really, really good. I like that
so
one a
good.
lot. Another very common joke that was occurring this week. This is a classic Rebels joke.
Classic
This says, didn't Jabba the Hutt die in Return of the Jedi? How is he still alive in Ahsoka? Is Dave really going to ignore original trilogy canon like that? And has a photo of Ezra from last week's episode.
I've seen it's so funny. Okay, am I going to get in trouble if I post this one on Twitter?
Well, let's take a look. I think I had this one in the previous episode.
Are you sure? I feel like I've sent it to you
I
before.
know I've seen it.
I feel like I've sent it to you.
Okay, maybe that was what it was.
So for context, is a
For
picture
the people who can't
for
see
the
this
people
visual meme.
in the peanut gallery tonight. It is one of the many iterations of Megatron, and it is spelled Magatron with a red cap, wearing a gray camo shirt that says God's Country, camo cutoff jeans shorts, and he's holding a Trump 2020 flag.
I sometimes do disrespect just the bizarreness of some memes.
I spent 3 hours one time trying to find this very specific image, and I just came across it by accident this week.
That's wonderful.
And this was like 3 months ago. I was trying to find this.
So this one's kind of visual, but it's got a fun pun or wordplay to go with it. It's got an image here of like a mobile mop bucket that's blue and red, and it just says Optimus Prime thinks we wouldn't notice him. It looks a lot like Optimus Prime. Look, I know I bring it up way too often, but I'm going to bring it up again. This is what the Transformers should be turning into. Mundane objects. This would truly be in disguise.
Minivans.
Imagine how many people you could assassinate if you could disguise yourself as a mop bucket.
As a mop bucket.
Anyways.
It says, Dry Bones Come Alive by the Night Sisters.
I think you have to explain this one to me.
It's the joke of the theory of the resurrected troopers.
Okay. That's a worship song, correct?
Yeah.
Dry Bones. I'm not. Oh, okay. I see. So the it's not a good image because Thrawn is front and center,
okay.
but the theory that all of these night troopers are like dead bodies brought back to life. Dry bones come alive.
It's a reference from the Bible book Ezekiel.
I see.
Yeah.
So this is two panels from an anime that I've never seen, so I'm not familiar with, but I have seen this meme format before. It's a little girl pushing another girl on a wheelchair, and the girl pushing the wheelchair is labeled as Vice Admiral Rampart.
Is this a Simpsons meme?
No. And the girl in the wheelchair is Captain Wilco. And Rampart says, submit a new report that doesn't mention Clone Force 99. Wilco says, sir, I will not falsify an official report. And the little girl just dumps Wilco off the cliff. Which is a great reference, a very particular reference to one of our is that first episode of this podcast? Was that episode of Bad Batch?
It might have been. It was the second episode, though.
But they released the first two episodes at the same time, didn't they? So that is a joke that goes all the way back to our first episode of the podcast, and I loved it.
Palpatine, after the Jedi tell him he's under arrest.
Oh no!
We have a man. We have a man.
Oh man!
Fighting what appears to be basketball mascots. There's one already lying on the floor, captioned Kit Fisto, and the guy captioned Palpatine is holding a metal chair to bring it down on a mascot captioned Mace Windu at like Mach 5 speed.
It's really good. It's a good one. This one's purely visual, but I wanted to get Rachel's reaction to this. Another, in a similar vein to the Magatron, just like people's bizarre Photoshop choices.
That looks like AI generated.
Yeah, I'm not sure how real or not real this is. Probably not real at all, but it's a bunch of stormtroopers. It's 4 stormtroopers, and they have been photoshopped so that they have the texture and colors and the head things of the Teletubbies.
They look fuzzy too.
And
I don't
it
like
looks real. Like they look like they
Yeah.
exist.
Ugh.
Whether these are actual costumes.
501st is doing a lot of
they're particularly 501st Stormtroopers as well. Bizarre.
I meant
image.
like the 501st cosplay group.
Oh, sorry. No, they're First Order Stormtroopers is what I meant to say.
This is a comic panel being said by Vader. The reports are correct. Skywalker was one of the Jedi Order's most skilled generals, and someone off panel's asking what happened to him. But the image below is a president giving the Medal of Honor to someone.
The original. Man, this is multiple layers. The original image is an image of Obama giving
the Medal of Honor
to Biden, but someone then photoshopped it so that it was Obama giving a medal to Obama, and now it's Anakin giving a medal to Anakin. Himself. I almost made a reference to that meme format in this episode when we were watching it yesterday. There's a part where Thrawn says something like, "We have so wisely been prepared for Ahsoka's arrival. Like we wisely assumed that she wasn't dead." And it's a Thrawn congratulating himself for making a very wise decision.
Yeah. We got
So popular meme from the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie of Tobey Maguire or Peter Parker and Flash Thompson about to fight, except for it's Ahsoka and Anakin, and Ahsoka says, "I don't want to fight you, Anakin." And Ahsoka says, Anakin says, "I wouldn't want to fight me either." What do you got?
This is a picture of someone pouring out a cup of coffee into an overflowing cup of coffee. The hand is captioned, "Me and the empty cup pouring out. My knowledge of Star Wars and the overflowing cup. Anyone who will listen."
Oh no, that's horrible. That's a very gross image. All that coffee.
Oh yeah, you're not a coffee drinker.
I hate coffee.
Athena, let us
But just the
shame
thought
him.
of just like dairy product going all over the table. So this is
Cameron's never spilled anything in his life.
Look, I have, and I hate it. So seeing it in that image, it's visceral. It's a very visceral image. This is Vader and Luke talking at the very end of Empire Strikes Back during the I am your father. But it's instead Vader is Mace Windu and Luke is Boba Fett. And Windu says, "Surrender, I have won." And Boba says, "Never, you killed my father." Mace says, "No, Boba, you are your father."
No!
I
got 3 more. I don't know how many you have.
I've got 4 more.
Oh, you kept scrolling. I got scared. No, you don't understand. They're going to use the World Between Worlds to erase the sequel trilogy. And it's a guy talking to...
Yeah, I saw that one too.
It's a guy talking to a girl, and like all of a sudden, I don't know if it's like a party, and he's like talking to her, and she looks so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
she's like
he's like very aggressive.
She's like backed in a corner.
So good.
So good.
This might be an older meme, but I stumbled upon it this week. Thought it was really funny.
It's an older meme, but it checks out.
Gonna tell my kids this is Thrawn and Ezra, and it's live action Aladdin and Genie. One, funny because Genie is blue, Thrawn is blue, and secondarily funny because everyone assumed that the guy who played Aladdin was gonna be live action Ezra.
You tried out for him,
and the costume's not too far off, and the hair is pretty close. So yeah, really funny.
Oh, I love that one. That one's so good. This one says, "What you got there, Ezra?" And this is this is a very famous scene.
Good stuff.
This is a very famous scene from iCarly. I think it's probably one of the first episodes. So it's a scene where Carly and Sam are looking at the elevator that just goes into their apartment. I don't know how that works logistically, and I don't know if I want to know how that works. I would be terrified if an elevator was in my apartment. It's where they ask her brother as he's coming out, "What you got there?" And he's like, he's holding a smoothie. He's like, "A smoothie," but he actually has a live ostrich with him. So Carly and Sam are Ahsoka and Hera, and her brother Spencer, that's his name, coming out is Sabine, and where the smoothie is, it's Ezra, but the ostrich has Thrawn's face on it.
That is, and like it's very poorly photoshopped, and I love it. It's so funny.
So good.
This is a reference to something that happened last episode of Ahsoka. It just says in quotes, her master was Anakin Skywalker, and it's just shocked Pikachu, but he's blue.
And red eyes?
Yeah,
Oh,
the small detail is making him blue to look
So
like
good.
Thrawn. It's so funny.
All right, this is my last one. This, my lawyer, bro. I'm going to jail. 2 crying emojis. And it's a picture of Chopper from the court scene.
Yeah.
in this
Oh, man,
episode.
that's good.
Love it.
This one goes straight out. This is just for you, Rachel. It just says, the Shell People next episode, calling it now.
Let's go! Yes!
Who is it?
It's Commander Brasso from Andor as he is holding Marva Andor's brick before he bashes it into the skulls of some Imperial fascists. If you didn't know, I love Andor. It's a very niche interest of mine, truly. You know, it's just, I don't talk about it all that often, so when I tell people, they're kind of surprised. But truly, I think it's an underrated gem.
What else you got?
That's it.
All right, one last one here. It says, who wore it better? And you've got our Transformer Autobot RC, who's the pink girl Transformer, and you've got Grimlock, and they both have like aprons on, and they're like
I
carrying
hate
a
when you do
plate.
stuff like this, Cameron.
I especially love it just because Grimlock wearing a gigantic
Apron.
and carrying a plate of drinks
It's his
is
size.
so
It's
funny.
his size.
Do you have any idea what episode that's from?
No.
So funny. So that's the end of my memes. Let me send these to you.
We lost our editor. Never mind, she's napping by the door. She's waiting to escape.
She knows I'll be leaving soon. She heard me minute. She's like, oh, it's
She's
almost
like,
done.
oh, we're almost done.
It has
They'll
been
turn
like
my
20
water fountain
minutes.
back on soon.
She did come over and inspect it shortly after I turned it off today.
She didn't. I forgot to turn it on last time.
Oh, no.
Until I
Poor
woke up
baby.
and I was like, wow, it's so quiet. And then I walked into the kitchen and she ran over to it and yelled at me and I felt bad. Oh, I forgot you said we both had the Babu
Did
Freak
you send
one.
me yours?
Yeah. I just beat you to it.
Ah, there it is. Okay. So what do we got here? So it's not the Megatron. We got Dry Bones come alive. You got Mace Windu fighting Palpatine, or Palpatine fighting Mace Windu and Kit Fisto with a chair.
Spike's down there.
Yeah. Yeah. You got Anakin giving Anakin a medal. Well, it's got a Screen Rant watermark in the bottom. But you could have taken that. I guess the Anakin giving Anakin the medal award. Are you guessing that's mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made it.
Nice.
Which one is? What is it?
This is the one of Vice Admiral Rampart shoving Captain Wilco off a cliff.
I know it's probably giving myself away by making such a specific reference, but I thought once I saw the meme
so
format
good.
and I thought
I thought it was going to be the one from Simpsons when you were describing it. I think there's a similar scene in Simpsons.
oh, interesting.
Simpsons.
My knowledge about Star Wars. Anyone who will listen, that seems very you. Oh man, this. What you got there, Ezra, is really funny. This my lawyer, bro. I'm going to jail. That's
My
really funny.
lawyer, bro. I'm
Okay.
going to jail.
So we got the iCarly one, the coffee one, or the Dry Bones Come Alive. I'm guessing it's between those three would be my guess. It's hard. Got it down to 3. Dry Bones, coffee. Is it the Dry Bones one?
It is the Dry Bones.
Yes! First win in like 3
been a
weeks,
hot
4
second.
weeks. It's been 4 episodes
My
since.
other version, but I thought it would be a little too complicated, was I was actually had just a wide shot of all the troopers and the actual verses from Ezekiel.
That may have been good.
But
yeah, I think it's a
thought-
really good joke. It was just too
I thought it's too
cerebral
niche.
for me.
I thought it would be too complicated. It's a beefy little amount of text.
Okay, I've caught up a bit. I think I talked about it last week. I've now actually done it. I've now created an actual spreadsheet with a chart to keep track. This is week 12.
You could,
This is our 12th week of doing this game.
woo!
I am now at 7 wins, and you are still at 8.
I got one today, so I should be at 9, right?
Oh, you got it right. I don't know why I thought you didn't get it right. Never mind. My bad.
Like, bro,
okay.
Really
Nope.
it.
No, you're good. I don't know why I thought that. Okay. 9 and 3. Very good. Okay. And so here's you can see you're on a great uphill trend.
Let's
here.
go!
It's a trending line chart here.
Wow.
We were on like the same path.
We were on
so
the same wavelength.
long.
The week we both lost.
Yeah. And then we were both at 6 wins week 9. And then ever since then, you really started to pull ahead. This is a good way to look at it though. I feel a little bit better now that you're at now that you were at 9 and 7 wins respectively.
Yeah, that's not
two between, but it's the losses that get me. It's looking at
Like,
7
wow,
wins.
we're so good.
The 5 losses. That's what upsets me about my score. But also down here. So you got orange is you, blue is me, and then down here is green.
It's Caleb.
Caleb at 0.
I like how it's our podcast colors. The orange and blue.
Yeah, it did that by default. Isn't that interesting? I didn't even
The
choose
FBI agent in your laptop. He's like, oh man, they're going to love this.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I almost started reading the opening thing again. I was getting the wrong part of my document.
Welcome to Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It is.
As always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our intro and outro music. Props to Rachel for our artwork and Twitter account at Rebels Robots Pod.
Props to Cameron for running our Facebook group, Rebels and Robots.
I've got some good posts in mind. I got some really good screenshots from this week's episode, and
Star Wars or Child's Play.
I should do Child's Play too. I'll do that too. There's some really good ones there. I was thinking about specifically about Ahsoka though. Shout out to Athena for editing this. I don't even know where she is. I don't know.
She's by the door. Shout out to Athena for trying to fit an entire floss container in her mouth.
Give us something to read on the pod. Leave a review. Tweet or DM us memes.
Don't do Amazon though. We will never.
Do not leave a review on Amazon.
Don't leave a review on Amazon. We will never see it. We've tried.
Rachel's mom, do a review somewhere else. Feel free to send us your opinions as well as anything that we're covering.
And then we will judge them.
This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, thanks, Rachel's mom, for the nice book sleeves. We appreciate it. I can keep my Bible protected now, I guess.
Your Bible protected so that way you can read about the dry bones.
We're really outing ourselves this week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.